Podcast for the week of May 22nd.
We're
our first
not late.
Monday.
We're fashionably on time.
Well, technically, I think if we skip over the intro like we did live on YouTube here, we're on time.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we're kind of on time. Old man, how the hell are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm kind of disappointed. We were supposed to go to the football game today, but of course, with my lungs, I got to be so careful. And when we had to make the decision, it was still smoky, and I said, nope, not going.
And it's a good thing you did, because it was a miserable day.
What are you doing?
It was a miserable day to watch football.
It was smoky to start, and then the rain came in, the lightning came in. There was like an hour delay at halftime because of a massive thunder lightning storm went over top of McMahon. Even Bev, my sister-in-law, who is like the diehard Stampeders fan, she will stay at anything. I've seen her there at -40. She left. Preseason game, and apparently it was raining way too hard.
That's fair. It wasn't a great day for football.
No.
But it is a great day to talk football.
Yes, we have a special guest.
This is the start of the CFL season. I'm hearing things. So if you are looking around what I'm doing, old man, I'm hearing things. It could be my neighbors upstairs. It could be my roommate. We're trying to figure it out. So if I get distracted at any point, I hope you pick up the ball.
It was like, you kept doing this, you're doing this. And I was like, what is...
It sounds like it's coming right here. Like I have my earbuds in. So it sounds like it's coming like right here. So I don't know.
We'll let you away with that then.
Yes, you mentioned we have a special guest
we do
joining us today. So let's bring him in. His name is Darren DuPont. Let me bring up everything because apparently...
Darren, how are you, buddy?
Guys, you let him call you old man on here, Kevin?
I do. It's his thing. He's always called me old man, probably from the time, I'm guessing he was early teens?
Probably early teens, yeah.
When it started.
Okay.
And it's just
so there's been a precedent that's been established here. It's okay.
Exactly.
It's a loving thing, just like my nickname for him. Can I say it on air?
I mean, you can do. You know what the great thing is we're on YouTube. You can say whatever you want.
Well, I say it lovingly, and people get mad when I say it, but I call him dumbass. But I say it with love in my heart.
It's taking it back to Red on that 70s show.
Yep, that's exactly where I got it from.
I love it.
So how you doing, my friend?
I am doing really good. I'm disappointed we didn't get the football game in today, but no, for the most part, doing really, really well, and glad to be on here with you guys.
Awesome. You didn't get a football. You mean the Stampeder game?
Yeah. We got this new platform to watch games on, and thought we'd get to watch a full game, and just happy that for the most part training camps are going off pretty well, and the smoke's not interrupting too much of it.
What's it like in Saskatchewan for the smoke? I know down here the last week and a half have been hell. Off
and on. It really hasn't been too bad. The last couple of days have probably been the worst. It's pretty. I'm just looking outside. It's pretty hazy right now. You can see it in the sun, but really, it's not that bad. It really isn't. Not nearly, what you guys are experiencing there in Alberta and in Calgary. I even saw it, coming through there, last week, and it's not great, but it's much better where we are. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't imagine being up north right now, northern Alberta, I know.
And the fires. I feel for the people. If anybody's listening up north Alberta, we're thinking of y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
It's brutal up there. I have a couple friends who are up in Edmonton, and one of them works outside for a living, and he's doing what he can, but he's like, we'll go out, we'll do things for 5 minutes, and then we'll go back and sit in the vehicle for 10 because you can't breathe. You can't catch your breath, and it's brutal. And I couldn't imagine trying to be a pro athlete up in Edmonton, like the Elk up there, trying to run practice outdoors, and again, you run for 5 minutes and it takes you 20 to catch your breath.
I know.
I haven't heard much of the Elk training camp. I know the Lions moved indoors, and I know Saskatchewan moved indoors. I'm sure the Elks probably moved inside as well.
Yeah, they have, and they have great facilities there to be able to go inside. The University of Alberta has some opportunities, although I don't know if they've been in the dome or not. But there's the field house, and they've got the beautiful dome on Foot Field that they use to be able to train 12 months of the year. they put that up in the winter. So that's pretty awesome.
That's cool. Jake, you have some questions for our guest.
I have all sorts of questions for our guest, but I kind of want to do a quick rundown. I know, Darren, you weren't able to catch most of the game. Old man, I know you caught most of the game, if not all of it.
I caught, I would say 90% of it. We did turn it off after like the half hour of extra of halftime, even though it was Mark Steven, who is really good. But because what they did is they showed the regular cameras, but they had 770 QR 770 doing the play-by-play, which was really cool. I don't think they'll do that for regular season. Is that right, Jake?
No, yeah, they announced that for TSN Plus. So those of you in the United States who want to watch and it's not carried on CBS Sports Network, it will be the TSN broadcast that you get with CFL Plus. So it'll be a proper professional broadcast because it was nice to be able to watch. It was nice to be able to watch the game, but having it with the stadium camera and the radio play-by-play, it felt like watching a junior league game.
It was disappointing. The second half was better. They did something with their feed, and when they went to commercials in the first half, they just came up with commercial break in process. Stream will resume shortly. In the second half, they actually had pictures of the stadium, people in the stadium, so it became more interactive while you're watching it. And not as boring, I'll say. I'm hoping that's what they do for the regular season. So if somebody's picking it up from the States and watching it for the first time, it doesn't look like they're watching a high school game.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Like, especially, anything that's online in the streams, like even Sportsnet.
Sorry to cut you off, Darren. Sounds like you're having some technical difficulties. We're having some.
You sound like Mickey Mouse. Sounds like you just did a shot of helium.
Did I do that?
There we go. We're back.
That was awesome.
Oh, so we're okay.
We're good. We're good now.
He was like, "What are you smoking over there, buddy?"
Yeah, you got a little fun over here. But no, like, you watch the NHL Center Ice package, you watch the NHL playoffs on Sportsnet, any of their digital feeds, there's no commercial breaks. I mean, it just says commercial break in progress. They haven't sold any. Yeah. And they have a little looping visual that really isn't much. And I don't like it either. Like, I wish they at least had a countdown clock or something to let me know how much time was left so I could, get up and go to the washroom. So the product will evolve, but just showing TSN Plus saying commercial break in progress, that's not any different than what the NHL is doing, Sportsnet or other entities with their digital OTT platforms.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, you do a lot of play-by-play for Canada West. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
That is cool. Now, where is that stream? Is that streamed or is that just on
both?
Is it Shaw? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it used to be the Canada West on Shaw until Shaw dissolved their stations. It transitioned into what's known now as the Canada West Showcase. It's a group of networks across Western Canada that cover the games on television. So it's distributed on pay-per-view through Bell MTS, SaskTel Max, TELUS in Alberta, and I think Bell or TELUS again out in BC. All across television to all the subscribers get it for free. So that's cool. When I say pay-per-view, it's not you don't have to pay for the game on TV. And then the Canada West streaming platform, Canada West TV, does pick up our call for all those featured games of the weeks as well.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
That is cool. I'm gonna try to see if I can actually watch some games. I don't have TELUS here in Alberta. I have Shaw, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to circumvent that.
They may give me a username and a password, so maybe one week.
I was going to say,
give you the inside. Don't tell your viewers.
Yes. Keep that quiet link.
Exactly.
In my chat.
Exactly.
So, Darren, how did you get involved with Canada West and U Sport play-by-play? Because it's a very niche thing up in Canada. It's not like down in the States. And I know we have some American viewers who understand NCAA and college ball down there is huge. It's not that way up here.
No, but it did used to be bigger. I mean, TSN used to cover the Vanier Cup and still has on occasion. CBC now covers it on the major network. So at least there are certain games, across major national networks in Canada, but not all year long like you get with NCAA college football. The story for me getting into football was random, actually. It's how I got into TV. I had come back in 2009 from a stint up in Dawson Creek, doing radio and doing hockey play-by-play up there. And I came back to freelance and work in Saskatoon. And I was going back to school, working on my bachelor's degree in business. And I went over to Bob Baker, who was running the local Shaw outlet. And I said to Bob, look, at all these jobs I'm applying for TV say I need experience. How do I get experience if all the jobs need experience? So I said, what can I do for free? Like, can I just get some experience? He's like, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, why don't we do some football stuff? I'd like to do, what if I did a show every week on the Husky football team? And he said, okay. So we ended up putting together a 30-minute magazine show. I called it Huskies All Access. They showed me they let me all the gear, the cameras, the microphones. They showed me how to use their editing suite. So I learned how to use Final Cut Pro, which is the Mac and Apple software. Learned how to use Adobe. They showed me how to do that. They even built me a little mini studio. And I got a couple of co-hosts. Yeah, it was awesome. So I went to the games. I went to the practices. I shot my own interviews. Like, I set the camera up, turned the little viewfinder around, did it myself, did the audio tests, had a bunch of interviews where I wasn't even on the screen for the first little while. Learned it all. I cut the highlights, and we put together this half-hour show every year. And one day, there was a guy that did some of the sideline work. His name is Dave Thomas, very talented broadcaster in Saskatoon, a really good guy. He couldn't do one of the games. And so Bob came to me and said, hey, Dave can't do the game, next Friday. I was looking at your stuff. It's really good. Would you be interested if I passed your name along? I said, yeah, of course I would. So they passed it along to Dave Roberts, the producer. He called and I got the job. So I got on the sidelines to do the game. And Dave is pretty good. He's pretty good at working with new talent, doesn't put you in uncomfortable positions, puts you in spots to succeed. So, I kept it pretty small the first couple of games. The first game, just did a couple of hits, few interviews, that type of thing. And they liked what I did. So they asked, would you like to come back? And so I kept coming back, doing some sidelines. Then I started hosting games. I hosted and covered a couple of Hardy Cups before I finally got my chance to go upstairs into the booth and do play-by-play, which is what I really love to do. And did play-by-play the first year, and got asked to call the Hardy Cup, the championship. And so I've called the last two Hardy Cups, and it's been going really, really well.
That's so cool. So cool.
It's really cool, yeah.
Now, you got into radio as well at that point, did you not?
I went to Western Academy back in 2006. And so my first job was in the fall of 2006 in Kindersley. I was the voice of the Kindersley Clippers. So that was my first job. That's when I got into radio, was the 06-07 season.
We got to stop you. What the fudge is what, the Clippers?
The Kindersley Clippers, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're right down the road, I guess, Drumheller, the Dragons, in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. So, yeah, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League.
Gotcha. Okay. Carry on.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was great, actually. I was playing football at the time, and I got the call to get the job in Kindersley. It was funny. I was at camp at the Regina Thunder, junior football. Just lost actually in the Canadian Junior Championship this year to the Okanagan. But oh, wow. I was in camp, and I started developing tendonitis in my knees, and they cut me just before the preseason game, and kind of feel like Sean Lemon over here, but no, they cut me. And I say that like I'd earned it, hey, like I was a all-star or something. I'm trying to make the team here. This is a disrespectful thing to say to Sean, but
Sean, if you're listening, we're sorry.
Yeah, did not mean disrespect. No, not comparing myself to you, but I got cut. And I'm working at Dairy Queen in Regina as a job, living in town now with nothing, no football to play. I mean, working at Dairy Queen wasn't my dream, not that it's a bad thing, but 4 days after I got cut, a guy by the name of Mike Henschel, who I went to broadcast college with, he had landed the new morning show job in Kindersley at a new FM station. He called and asked how football was going. He said, how's it going? And I said, well, I just got cut. He said, that's actually really convenient because we need a play-by-play guy for the hockey team. And I thought of you, and I wasn't sure what you were doing. You said you wanted to get into sports. So literally the next week I drove to Rosetown, Saskatchewan, interviewed with Tia Daniels, the program director, went and met the coach and got the job.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
So it really worked out. Like it was kind of luck, right place, right time. And none of this probably would have happened if Mike hadn't called or I hadn't got cut by the Thunder.
Everything for a reason, right?
Big
I've
time.
said it so many times. Everything happens for a reason. Now, you ended up at one point working with Mr. Peterson, Mr. Rod Peterson.
Yes.
How did that come about? That was on radio as well.
Yeah, it really wasn't until 2015. I mean, I think I had done one or two interviews on his old radio show, the Sports Cage, back when he was working on local radio in Regina. But it was 2015. I was at Ryder Training Camp. I was doing some work there for Access Communications and a little bit for the radio station in Saskatoon. And that's when I really met Rod. We knew who each other were, but we didn't really know each other. And that's the first time we really got face-to-face time. And we hit it off like crazy, just really quickly. And so that we hit it off so well, he asked me to co-host one of his afternoon radio shows, the sports talk shows. I co-hosted with him one day, then it turned into a second day, and then his regular co-host came back. But then it turned into me spending more time in Regina. And when I was in town, he asked me to come into the show, and it just grew and grew and grew from there. So, yeah, way back in 2015 is when that relationship started.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, Jake. I kind of took over there.
You're good.
Questions, I can tell.
No, you're good. I was actually building questions towards the CFO, so it's
well, we're going to get there because now Darren's working with Rod Peterson in 2015. As most people know, Rod was the voice of the Riders for 20 years. So that must have been he's probably 12 to 14 years in, 15 years in at that point?
Yeah, for 15 for sure. Yeah, I believe his last year was 2018 or 2018 was his last season with the team.
Oh, okay. So he would have been more than that then, eh? He would have been...
it would have been really close to the end.
Yeah.
16,
Very
17.
cool. So we're not going to go into a big detail on what happened. Why Rod isn't with the Riders. I have a funny story I got to tell you off air tomorrow when I talk to you. It's a really funny story. Anyway, you decided to start DuPont Media.
Yeah. DuPont Media started back in 2014 when I started the TV show Huskies All Access.
Oh, okay.
That's when it started. I had a vision at that point that it was going to grow beyond one show, right? I wasn't envisioning getting the call to do play-by-play and moving into the live broadcast side of things. But, as you say, things happen for a reason. So I started the company then. When I shut that show down, DuPont Media went dormant. That was really the only purpose. It wasn't doing anything. So in 2019, when we had this idea for the Rod Peterson show, that's when I fired DuPont Media back up to kind of launch Rod's show. I thought, you know what, this is exactly what I wanted to do when I started the show in Saskatoon, but now it's on a bigger scale. So that's really when it started for real, and I guess you could call it 2.0.
2.0. That's cool. As for people who don't know, Darren is Rod's co-host or the co-host on the Rod Peterson show. The Moose, as he's referred to on the show. I still don't. Is there a story behind the Moose? I think
there is.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, there is. Rod asked me once on the air. He's like, "Why does nobody ever call you Moose?" Nobody has. Nobody's ever. One time I was called Moose. And the reason, that Rod asked is from the former Broad Street Bully, Andre Moose DuPont, played in the National Hockey League with Philadelphia. And tough as nails, tons of penalty minutes. And so it was funny. One time I was playing Pee-wee hockey or whatever year we just started hitting. I don't know if it had moved to Adam at that time, if it was Pee-wee. Now it's 14 or whatever it is. But I didn't hit. I scored goals and made, played forward. I wasn't tough. I didn't want to get hit. I didn't do any hitting. But we were playing Wadena, and one of their players came across the middle, and I laid what I mean, best check I've ever laid, but I just laid them out like huge hit. And the players down on the ice, the coaches got to come out, the trainers, they all got to come out. They stopped the game for 5 minutes. And my coach was like, "Oh my God, you're just like the Moose." I'm like, "Who's the Moose?" He's like, "Moose DuPont." And I'm like, I'm feeling bad because this player's hurt. And wouldn't you know, they got to take the helmet off the player. And I find out it's a girl. It's a girl. It's not even a guy. So I feel really bad. Well, now my coach is giving it to me. It's like, "Oh, just like the Moose would have done. Moose wouldn't have hit a girl, right?" Anyways, so Moose stuck for about, 2 days, right? When I was little. And so I told that story on the air when Rod asked about it. And ever since, he's called me the Moose. And the Moose has kind of been exclusive to the RP show. Nobody outside the show ever calls me Moose.
No, it's just Rod. Rod has
just
it.
Rod.
If you haven't watched the show, you got to watch the show because Rod literally has a nickname for everybody that watches the show. It's an interactive show, and if you're watching, if you comment, he will give you a nickname. I guarantee you.
Yeah, big time.
Cool. So the CFL, Jake, what do you want to ask?
Yeah. Well, we're coming up onto, first off, breaking news. Florida just scored. It is now 1-0 Florida.
Of course they did.
With 10 minutes to go in the seconds.
I've never seen a team get outplayed and find ways to win like they have over this round, the last round, and even against Boston. It feels like a team of destiny. But
I picked them to win the cup.
Yeah.
Jake?
Yeah.
Did you just hit the random button until it ended up with Florida winning the cup? Okay.
Whichever.
Yeah. But yeah, the CFL. So doing the Hughes Sport Canada West, you probably know a lot of these players before know of them anyways, as they're coming up through the ranks. What players out there now did you see in college and say, "Oh, he's going to make an impact in the CFL"?
Yeah, I was a big fan of Stavros Katsantonis. He's had some success now in the Canadian Football League. And when he was with UBC, and I believe it was the year they won their Vanier Cup, for sure it was the years after. I was a big fan of his. It's really tough because, the Canadian college player doesn't get a ton of looks, right? Every time when you look at the Canadian Football League draft. But there's some offensive linemen, some linebackers that tend to do really well in transition. The U of S Huskies have put a couple out that you'd be familiar with. Nathan Cherry, right, was, I believe, a BC Lion. Very good. And there's a couple of new ones. The Regina Rams have a couple of players, Jackson Ford being one that went to the Riders. Anthony Bennett's another one that was drafted by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Those are two young players. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do at the next level. Anthony Bennett came in Regina product family here, but he came from Florida, Weston, Florida. Played at Florida Atlantic, FAU, before transferring to the U of R. His brother had played at the U of R as a slot receiver. Was okay. Big athletic family, but Anthony Bennett's just one of those kids I think who's just going to find a way to have success in Winnipeg. They've got a great defensive line with Jeff Code and Jefferson and the guys they have. But Anthony Bennett's a kid full of personality. He's probably my favorite player that's come out of Canadian college football that I'm looking forward to watching and seeing how his pro career develops.
Oh, cool. We'll have to write that name down, Jake. That'll be one to watch.
Yeah. Michael on that, Michael O'Connor was another guy, excuse me, that I'd followed quite a bit. Watched him come from Penn State to UBC and lead them on a crazy run. And even before that, he's not in the league anymore, but I was a big Andrew Buckley fan, not only as a player, as a person. He actually got on the field a little bit in Calgary, backing up Bo Levi, but he's gone on to med school and he's doing phenomenal things outside of football. So there's always a few kids, and we're seeing more and more quarterbacks getting a shot now, it feels like, than ever.
Which is so cool. I love seeing a Canadian quarterback
get
a shot. It's Nathan Rourke now just came out, I think today, that the NFL can dress 3 QBs and not the third QB won't go against their roster.
Yeah, that's big for him.
Rourke reportedly could be dressed. Just saying.
That would be big for him.
Yeah, and that hasn't been confirmed by the NFL. It's been confirmed by all the insiders, but hasn't been confirmed by the NFL. So
very cool. You brought up the defense of line. We heard just yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yep, it was yesterday.
Sean Lemon was cut by the BC Lions so they could sign Jonathan Kongbo. Thoughts on that?
Well, Kabongo's a great player. I mean, he played in Winnipeg before going to the NFL. He's young. Spent some time with the Denver Broncos. Really talented, big ceiling. Had some injury concerns, so he didn't get drafted right away into the NFL, but then got his shot. Now he's back. I don't know for how long, if this turns into the rest of his career in the Canadian Football League or not. Look, getting Jonathan Kabongo, that's a big get for the BC Lions.
Huge.
He's got the Canadian passport. It makes Sean Lemon expendable. This is one of the crazy, weird things about the CFL. You've got the reigning West most outstanding defensive player nominee cut. And if you talk to Sean and you follow him on social media, he's talking about how great of a training camp he's had. And, he's kind of the face of that defense. And
he literally said it was the best training camp he's ever had.
Right. And that's what's wild about the CFL. But look, when you look at Rick Campbell and BC and you look at some of these guys who have been around the league a while, they're pretty good at knowing what strings to pull, making a move just before a player's best before date. Not saying that Sean Lemon's at his best before date, but he's gone through this too. It almost seems like Sean Lemon has never really garnered the respect, whether it was, racking up sacks in Calgary, Toronto, Saskatchewan. It always seems like he gets discarded, and then what does he do? Just shows up and becomes an all-star on the next team. So whatever Sean decides to do, right, and he continues to be an all-star. He continues to be, an elite player in the league. So I'm sure whatever he decides to do or where he lands, if he's going to keep playing, he's going to be highly, highly motivated. So that's what you're going to get if you're going to go after Sean Lemon.
What is he, about 34, I think? 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So I know getting up there a little bit. I say that. I'm 36 now. So
doesn't it suck?
That's how we treat athletes, right? Like this old 34-year-old. Meanwhile, I feel like a young 36, right? So
well,
he'll be
prime.
Yeah. So I feel bad for him, and now he's going to have to wait a little bit probably, but if he gets his shot, I think he'll be highly motivated.
Yeah,
all it takes is an injury in the next couple of weeks for a team to reach out and say, "Hey, we've got the spot."
Yeah.
Or does a team like Edmonton zap him up quicker, or even the Red Blacks?
They might.
Right?
They absolutely might. He's played for Chris Jones before.
Yeah, and that was the first one that came to mind was because he's played for Chris Jones. That was in Saskatchewan, was it not?
I believe so, yeah.
Now, you're a Saskatchewan boy. You're obviously a Riders fan. We won't hold that against you because we kind of like you. Predictions for this year. What are you looking for? Especially with this, especially with the Riders. They had such a disappointing season last year.
I know.
Where do they go this year?
There's nowhere to go but up. I feel like I like what Jeremy O'Day has done with the group. I think there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, but Trevor Harris I think is going to add some life and positivity to the offense, which is great. I'm interested to see if he can reignite Darrell Walker in that receiving core. But the biggest concern was along the offensive line. I think they've made some strides to address that. I don't know if they've made enough. So that's, for me, I'm really going to be dialed in on the Riders, for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season to see if they've cleaned up some of these issues. They've got a new offensive coordinator calling plays, new quarterback, bit of a retooled offensive line. So it's going to be a learning period and a growth period, but I think it's going to be fun. And I think they're going to be okay. I really do.
And let's face it, last year you could have had anybody back there tossing the ball from Rourke to you name
Dan Marino back there. Yeah, exactly.
And when you literally didn't have an offensive line, he's going to be on his back a whole lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is why I'm really curious to see how Cody does in Montreal. That's one of the other storylines,
Yes.
Not that Montreal is sitting here with a Grey Cup ready roster on paper.
No.
A lot of people are predicting Montreal to finish near the bottom of the league, but I actually think they're going to surprise a lot of people too. I didn't know if Jason Moss and Cody Fajardo were on the same game plan or the same page last year. I thought there was some friction there if you looked at body language and sideline communication. But Jason Moss signed as the coach, and after that, Cody Fajardo signed as a quarterback in free agency. So clearly they don't hate each other. Clearly they're willing to work together. So I think that's really intriguing to me and something I'll be following.
I think it's going to be a neat storyline, especially to see how well Montreal does, because I agree. I think they're going to be the surprise in the East. Winnipeg, of course, being Winnipeg, I still like to refer to them as the Smurf Mafia. They're fans, but because they've taken over from you. Your Rider fans are not the worst fans in the league anymore. It's now the Smurf Mafia.
The worst fans are always the ones that are winning all the time.
Isn't it?
Then you become annoying, and that's the circle of life, man.
And then you start to lose, and you're like, oh, it doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Saskatchewan when they lost for how many years, and everybody loved Rider fans because they sold out. Didn't matter. They're the lovables of the CFL. And then you started winning, and nobody liked you.
That's how it goes.
Right? In the West, who's your team? Who's your surprise pick in the West?
It's Edmonton.
Really?
Didn't win a game at home last year. Yeah. But for me, I'm always a give Chris Jones time kind of guy. Every year, it feels like he makes significant strides going back to what he did in Saskatchewan. Every year got better and better and better. So I'm picturing a vast improvement from Edmonton. A lot of that will hinge on their quarterback play. They probably have the one group where, Taylor Cornelius is there. I don't know what the status is of Ford and, how well he'll play, but it's the one team in the league for me that I've got a big question mark around the play at quarterback, but they've got some weapons. They've made some moves in free agency, and I like a Chris Jones year 2 team to make some strides.
Well, and Edmonton is kind of the team I'm looking at just because they've got, I think, one of the best football minds in their front office, being Mr. Giroy. And he'll tell you that, apparently, that he's the greatest football mind. And I don't think it's being cocky when you can back it up. I think it's called confidence, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and you've also got the godfather of the CFL. You got Wally Buono as a special advisor up there still. So
I didn't know. I thought he was done there.
I don't believe so. I believe he was advising for this year as well.
Darren, do you know that?
Great question. Now, something to look into. But either way, doesn't matter if he's officially an advisor or not. Giroy will have a pipeline into Wally, and so will Chris Jones.
Yes.
So I mean, it would be merely a formality. I don't know how involved he is on a day-to-day. I know, he's not in Edmonton or anything like that. But if he was, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have him on your side.
No. Talk about one of the greatest coaches to ever coach. You can't put much above him, I don't think. Is there anybody above him in your books?
Don Matthews would be in that conversation. I think when you look at what John Hufnagel did in Calgary during his tenure, you could keep going back through the history books, but definitely up there as one of the best.
Oh, for sure. Jake, you had a question about you as we finish up with Darren here about his predictions.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go with you, Darren, and the old man. CFL predictions. Who do you see playing in the Western Final?
Western Final, I see a Calgary-Winnipeg West Final again.
Calgary-Winnipeg. Old man?
Again? He said again? Like they did it last year? No. Oh,
Yeah,
this
other shoulder. He'll figure it out one day, folks.
It's going to be BC Winnipeg, except it's going to be different this year because BC is going to win.
All right.
Lunch. Do you want to bet a lunch on this one?
I'll take Calgary. You take BC. Getting to the who goes farther.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You heard it here, folks.
Lock it in.
Then we have the Eastern Final, which I think is way more up in the air than the West. I mean,
It
West
is.
you have Winnipeg as a lock. The only team I see that really is going to have a struggle to make the playoffs in the West is going to be Edmonton. I could see Saskatchewan being a toss-up between Saskatchewan, BC, and Calgary next year, this upcoming year. East, it's all up for grabs. Who do you think is going to be taking it to the Eastern Final?
It's really tough. I really like the Argos running it back, but you got to remember they've got a new quarterback. And, I know Kelly came into the game during the Grey Cup and ended up winning them that game, but he didn't play all year. This was McLeod Bethel Thompson's team, and he was the league's leading passer, if I'm not mistaken, last year. And now he's gone. So that's a big void. But I still like the Argos into the East Final, and I'll take Bo Levi and the Hamilton Tiger Cats to get there too. Mostly because I like the story of him, trying to prove everybody wrong. But I'm also a big Orlando Steinhauer fan as a coach. I really think he might be. He's up there as a top coach in the Canadian Football League, despite Hamilton's year last year. I'm really a big fan of his.
I'm gonna go with Hamilton, Toronto. I think those are the teams. Even though I don't like 4 down Bo, I'll explain that comment later to you. He is going to have probably one of the best seasons of his career, in my opinion. I think he's going to come out with attitude, and whenever you have a talented player like Bo Levi with a burr in his saddle, a fire under his feet, he's going to light it up. They've got some good. They added some receiving core. I think it's going to. I honestly think Hamilton's going to be in the Grey Cup, which would be kind of cool, seeing that it's in Hamilton.
That would be cool.
How cool would that be? Hamilton, Calgary.
That'd be so cool.
Well, that would work out too well for TSN and CFL storyline wise.
It would be a dream. That would be a dream. It's always good when you can have the home team in the Grey Cup. It happened there for a few years. I think BC was in it, right? Toronto and Saskatchewan. I don't know if it was 3-3 or if there was a year off in between, but BC was in it, Toronto was in it at home, and Saskatchewan was. It'd be really great if Hamilton was in it at home. Would really invigorate that market. And if they played Calgary, that would just be a bonus.
Can you imagine that? Just the storylines coming out of that would just be insane. It would be fun to cover.
Very much.
Yeah. And we're going to be in Hamilton for the Grey Cup coming up as well, which will be cool.
That's right.
Now, I mean, the old man kind of spoiled the next question. He believes it's going to be a Hamilton-Calgary.
No, it's going to be Hamilton, BC. I said it would be nice to see Calgary.
Oh, sorry.
I'm predicting Hamilton, BC.
Hamilton, BC in the Grey Cup. Darren, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna predict Toronto, Calgary in the Grey Cup. Ooh. That'll be my prediction.
Yep.
I'd like to see Hamilton, Calgary. If I am cheering, that's what maybe I'll cheer for. I like to also see the love spread around, the winning spread around. So all the great people in Toronto, they won. They can celebrate that. They don't need to win again. They can wait a couple years. So that's. But I'm going to go. But I'm predicting here, Toronto, Calgary.
See, that's the thing about a city like Toronto, even BC, to a certain degree. Winning isn't going to change the crowd there. They have their base. They might get a few extras, but at Hamilton, they go on a run. It's going to be the hottest ticket in the city. And then come Grey Cup, watch out. It's going to be the biggest party we've seen. Same thing. I mean, you look at Saskatchewan, if they put 2 or 3 wins together in the first 2 weeks, watch that stadium fill up.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we need. BC's doing a fantastic job with promoting the game. Winnipeg, when I was out in Winnipeg last year at Thanksgiving, it was a 0-0 game. I think it was against Edmonton. Yeah, it was. mean nothing game, but that stadium was rocking. It was so much fun to watch a game. You walked in and the electricity in the building, it was just like, whoa. We need more stadiums like that, do we not, Mr. DuPont?
It's so great when you get people in the stadiums. I mean, there used to be Rider games, and not that long ago, guys, in Edmonton, where they would get 50,000 people into Commonwealth for a Rider game. And it is unbelievable because the entertainment is there, the game day, is there. It is a lot of fun. So hopefully we can get back there.
Awesome. Any other questions there, big guy?
I got nothing else. I ran through my questions.
Darren, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
We'll probably have you back on mid-season, see how things are going.
Yeah, you got my number anytime, guys. It's a pleasure being on with you tonight.
Awesome. Excellent. Thanks so much, Darren.
Take care, guys.
Excellent.
Well, that was very insightful, especially when it comes to a lot of the things that we don't get to see, how you get involved behind the scenes.
Well, and we've said it so many times, right? Before we even started doing this podcast, is how do these guys get their job? Like, where do they go? What do they do? Who do they know? Exactly. And a lot of times it's just being in the right place at the right time.
Right place, right time, right moment in life.
And of course, you got to have the talent, because without that, you're not going to, you might get a shot, but you're not going to continue.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And I don't know if you've ever heard Darren, now that he's not on air. He can still hear me. I know he can. Now that he's not on air, I've heard him, some of his calls. He's fantastic. I'd love to see new blood, as I've said many times on TSN, even on just the panel or color guy, or play-by-play.
Well,
because I'm not a big fan of their color guys, as I've mentioned once or twice.
The newest, I'm terrible with names, but the newest play-by-play announcer for TSN, he's younger. I want to say he's closer to my age, and he's excited. He's calling the games with excitement. Now he's sometimes partnered with color guys who aren't great, and I think that takes away a lot from the presentation.
That's just our opinion.
100% our opinion. The presentation of CFL is done as if it's a middle or bottom of the tier college football down in the States.
Well, they haven't made any changes to their panel or anything in so long. It's just to the point now where it's boring. It's and I guess it's boring for us because we're fans and we watch every single game, and it's the same thing over and over and over again.
To a degree, I
bunch of old guys talking about the old days.
But that's a problem. So I always compare it to other sports I watch. When I started watching UFC, and even still, when I watch UFC, Joe Rogan has some of the best insights. So does Daniel Cormier. Has the best insights as a play-by-play. Because they're explaining things that I don't fully understand.
Exactly.
Hey, that doesn't look like it's doing much, but what that arm across here is doing is stopping their movement so they can maintain control. Genius. That's really smart. Now, listen to a Matt Dunnigan on color commentary. Oh, back in my day, I used to be able to make that throw. Well, no, let's talk about the mechanics of how that throw didn't work because he was on the run and he threw off his back foot instead of his front foot, so the ball didn't go as far.
It drives me nuts. I like literally, if they never have that man on play-by-play again, I'd be happy. I
have a feeling there might be an old man rant about this at one point during the season. And you know where you can check out those old man rants? You can check them out at hughesports.ca.
And articles if they get posted.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing I didn't post this article this week. But I have started a series where I'm going to be going through and doing exactly what we were just talking about the color commentators should be doing. This week I basically posted an overview of what the CFL game is versus the NFL game. Next week I'm going to focus on some of my more minute details of the game. How reading a defense as a quarterback is different in the CFL than the NFL.
Oh,
how the lineups are going to be different. And going from there. So each week I'm going to be putting out a new article to explain things, and hopefully capitalize on some controversial moments and explain rules that need to be explained, because I find
Us controversial? It's
the
unheard of.
the explanations that you get while watching the game from TSN and the commentators aren't great.
That's why you might hear an old man rant every once in a while.
Yep.
If you're tuning in on Mondays.
Yes, that's right. While we have your attention and you're listening to this live or recorded, Mondays. Mondays are our new day.
7
Time
p.m. Mountain time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Very confusing when you're trying to post things in one time zone and you're focusing on another, because a majority of our fan base and our following is in BC.
Yes.
And in my brain, okay, 6 o'clock, we need to be ready for 6 o'clock. And then 6 o'clock comes around. I'm like, no, I have another hour I need to wait because it's only 5 o'clock.
Where's the old man? Where's the old man?
Hasn't been that bad. I've done it once. I've gotten on and gotten ready, sat down, and I was like, hey, where is he? It's time. And then I'm like, oh, right, no,
You're an hour early. It's better than being late.
It is. I've never been late for this. I've been late for a lot of things in life. I've been on time every single time.
You have. I've been impressed.
We did talk about it quite briefly.
What's that?
Getting Darren's opinion on it. What is your opinion on Sean Lemon being cut by the BC Lions?
Funny, because when we were at a family event last night, we had games day, and it popped up on my phone, and I was shocked to begin with. I was like, what the I just finished writing an article about how, well, I was kind of going through every position, not every position, but a bunch of different positions on the BC Lions, and what the outlook is in 2023. And I was like, adding Sean Lemon was massive for the defensive line. They're going to be blah, 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 blah. So I told Jake he hadn't posted my article. So I told him not to. So I'm going to rewrite my article.
And it will be up later this week. Hopefully
it'll be
tomorrow
later
or
this
Wednesday.
week. I'll probably write it tomorrow. And
well, you just have to rewrite it. That's the nice thing, is you don't have to do a whole new article. You can just rewrite.
Well, I think I'm going to rewrite it, and the whole article is going to be on how training camp can be brutal for veterans. We always think the last thing I would ever have thought is if someone would have said going into training camp, Sean Lemon wasn't coming out of training camp unless
he got injured.
Yes.
I would
have looked at him and said, you're an idiot. We just signed the guy. Of course he's going to come out. He's going to start, and he's going to be one of our freaking stars. We're going to feature him. They literally did a huge article on him in the Vancouver province, had him on global TV. They were focusing on Sean Lemonator. It was the thing.
But when you get someone who's younger, who's had a shot in the NFL and made practice rosters and the actual roster.
And he's a Canadian.
He doesn't take up a international slot, which is something that I think we should cover probably in depth next week.
Yes.
Is explaining the international versus domestic.
I wonder who we can get on to help us with that.
I have a few ideas.
Do you? Because I don't.
I have one idea. I don't know if you could swing it with your connections.
Okay, well, we can talk about that.
I don't want to.
Yeah, don't say it on air. Don't say it on air.
Advertise anything.
That would be bad.
Well, from what I've learned this last month is if you say things, be prepared to defend them. Speaking of things we said last week, we talked about JT Miller, or I guess it was over a week ago now, 11 days ago. We talked about JT Miller trying to qualify for the PGA US Open. And I have to specify that because I've learned in my research here. There's a US Open, which is tennis, and the US Open, which is golf.
Yes.
And it's confusing and stupid that you have just change the name. Change one of the names.
Stupid golf tennis people.
Why do you need the same name for one event?
So how did JT Miller end up doing? What did he shoot? What was his
That is what I am opening up right now.
-20 or what was he?
So we talked last week, right? And
you had to be -4, wasn't it?
Below 1.4. And Miller claims his handicap heading into the qualifier was minus 1.2.
Right.
Which means he's better than a scratch golfer, better than par on an average day.
Yeah. So if par is 72, he's getting in the 70s.
Well, no, if he's par 72, he's getting, I guess 71, 70. My brain did math wrong. Ignore me. I was reading something and you said things. Don't worry. So
Hey, look at me.
If Miller was able to shoot a 1 under on 1 under on Monday, I looked, I just didn't react. If he would have been able to shoot a 1 under, he would have been able to qualify.
But he didn't.
Yes.
Last time I looked, he was +6.
A birdie on the third hole got him 1 under, but a bogey on par 3. On the par 3 fifth hole brought him back to par. He maintained par through the first 9, which is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Back 9 did not go well for him.
No.
He did finish 6 over par.
Was it okay? He did finish there, eh?
Yeah. This article is written on Monday when he was qualifying, and as of the writing, he was ranked 27th. Which really he didn't qualify, and now it's a nothing burger story. But that's really good. The fact that he's able to qualify for an event like this, or even attempt to qualify for a sport like this, or an event like this, in a sport that's not his.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. He does have a lot of free time playing for the Canucks the last few years. He's got a lot of time to play on the golf course and refine that swing. And I'm hoping
he's still playing hockey into the spring.
I'm truly hoping that he can take things he's learned in golf and implement them into the hockey. And he's been playing a long time. A lot of it is the mental game. Well, the mental game of it.
Oh.
Because golf is you versus yourself. It's not you versus anyone else.
We don't know if he wrapped the club around a tree or not. We didn't watch.
I feel like that would have been front page news in Vancouver. That would have definitely been front page news in Vancouver.
Oh, too much fun.
Which would have been great. Something I didn't bring up and write a beautiful graphic for, because I just thought of it right now. Have you heard have you been keeping tabs of what Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin have been doing? The GM and VP of operations. Well, I mean, I know there's no hockey on and you're focused on football now, so just kind of wanted to update everyone. Okay. There is talks
we signed some people, didn't we?
Nope.
Oh.
No. There has been talks through the experts, the Darren Draggers, the smart people who follow the hockey games, that the Canucks have a really keen eye on the Swedish player who's supposed to be going 3rd overall, and there have been preliminary discussions about trying to move up to get that 3rd overall pick.
When is the draft?
Next month sometime.
June. Yeah, I know it's in June. June.
I don't think they have the exact date yet. Oh, they do.
Yeah, they do.
June 28th, a month and 6 days from now.
Yeah.
From the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right.
There are tons of rumors that Patrick Alvin and co are discussing trying to move up and get the 3rd overall pick, which would be a huge boost to us. I don't know how it's going to work.
Who would you trade away to do that?
You have to trade the 11th plus a whole bunch. The only thing that makes
JT Miller?
The only thing that makes sense to me is JT Miller.
Yeah.
Or I'm not putting this out there.
Careful.
I'm not putting that out there as rumor. This is the only thing that makes sense to me, is that Thatcher Demko would be a part of would have to be part of that deal. It's either them two, Pettersson or Quinn Hughes, and you're not trading the latter of the two. You're not trading Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson unless you're getting Connor Bedard, the 2nd overall and the 3rd overall of this year's draft. Like, that's the only way you make that deal.
Well, that's not even who has the 3rd right now?
I believe it is Columbus.
Columbus would be freaking excited to take a Miller, because They could be literally playoff bound.
Yeah, but they also need a goalie.
Right? So do they, instead of a Miller, do they take a Demko and give up number 3? But in this deep of a draft and how good this draft is, do you give up a prospect who's unproven? Because really, I mean, even the number 1 pick is unproven in the NHL.
Yeah, but
he hasn't played a game. He's unproven in the NHL. Will he be amazing? Of course he will. The kid's going to be phenomenal. If you don't know who I'm talking about, you shouldn't be watching.
Correct.
But is it worth giving up a third for a Demko or a Miller?
For the right team? For the right team, I think it would.
Yeah.
And Columbus might be that team who, I mean,
because they really need a goalie.
I'm just looking up who their goalie is right now, and I don't think it's anyone of note. It might be Jonas Korpisalo, who is a good goalie, but not a great goalie, not a Demko level goalie. And you would assume you'd have to then take back a goalie for the Canucks' sake. But then you're at that point, you're setting off a rebuild. And does Pettersson want to stay for a rebuild? Does Hughes want to stay for a rebuild? Because right now you have what every team wants. You have an elite top 5 center. You have a top 5 defenseman.
11.
With these guys in the ownership pressure that the GM and VP of hockey ops is under, it would not surprise me for them to make a drastic move this summer. The second bit of news that's been coming out is that the team has been looking at buying out one Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
That I've heard before.
Because the buyout would make sense this year, but it would straddle us with cap commitment forever.
How much though? I guess the question is.
So this year, it would alleviate $8 million of cap space. Next year, it would alleviate $5 million of cap space. And then 2.8 in 25-26 and 2.8 in 26-27. And then we would have 2.1 million for another 4 years after that on our cap book.
That's nasty.
So if there is, because there is also rumors that the NHLPA and the NHL are trying to negotiate to get a bigger raise in cap space for this next year, rather than just a modest $1 million raise. A small loan of $1 million, some might call it. They're asking for like 3 to 4 million, and are going to are willing to make successions on their hockey related revenue cut for the years moving forward.
Oh, really?
Talks, everything's preliminary, so there's nothing to officially report, but I believe that was from Elliot Friedman who was reporting on that. So again, sources
saying something, it's
there's at least a glimmer of truth.
He doesn't ask questions when there's nothing there.
Exactly.
It's like Eric Francis.
Well, I mean, he might ask questions when there's things there that he knows about. I mean, but it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Canucks. There's so much movement, and I mean, if you're going to make a big move, is Miller that move? And I know we've talked about it this past draft, or literally this past draft, the trade deadline all the way through the season. And then at the end of the trade deadline, we're like, all right, he's a Canuck for the next 8 years.
Yeah. But we got to July 1st.
There's this little bit of hope that we can, I mean, if you find the right team that's looking for a JT Miller type, what do you get back? And it's all about the return.
Well, but if you trade away a Miller, and we talked about trading away a Miller or a Demko,
yep,
you're signaling a rebuild.
I don't think you are with Miller. With Miller, you're not. You've got a young top 5 goalie. You've got a top 5 defenseman. You've got a top 5 center. You need the pieces around them. Is JT Miller that piece around the team?
He's so good when he's good, he's so good.
But when he's bad, You
He's
notice it every
so
night.
bad.
There's people, and like I'll pick on Andrei Kuzmenko because it was his first season last season.
Yep.
When he was good, he was great. When he was bad,
amazing.
When he was bad, you didn't really notice him.
No.
Which is what you want in a player.
But with Miller, you noticed
when he was bad, you noticed it. And was it because there was no one out scoring? Maybe. Maybe if Pettersson was on his game and Brock Besser was scoring.
Well, Pettersson was scoring pretty good, was he not?
Not at the beginning of the season. No, he was not.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. He had a great second half of the season.
Miller giving away the puck doesn't have anything to do with scoring, though, in my opinion. That's just again, you talked about it. It's the mental game, right?
Yep. But
so
JT Miller giving up the puck when we're up 3-0, when we're up 4-0, and we're not giving up those leads. Does that make a difference?
Yes.
Does having a healthy Thatcher Demko, because I said it before we even did the show, before Demko went on LTIR, that he looked hurt, that he looked like he was playing through something. He got hurt and was out. Oh, it's going to be a 6-week injury. Oh, it's a 10-week injury. Oh, it's a 12-week injury. How much of that had to do with that? So
I think so. I don't think he was healthy the whole season.
And
the beginning of the season.
He's a $5 million goalie who's, again, in my opinion, when he's on the top of his game, he is a top 5 goalie in the NHL.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So there's so many moving pieces with Tanner Pearson. Is he ever going to be able to play again after all of the shenanigans that he went through? Who's going to be playing with Quinn Hughes on defense? There's a lot of questions that are still up in the air with the Canucks, and we're not even done.
Sutter? Does he ever come back?
Who?
Brandon Sutter.
No, I believe he is officially off the books with the Vancouver Canucks. I believe he is no longer with the team.
Yeah, I think he's with the team still, isn't he?
I'm looking at Cap Friendly, who I trust more than anything else. He is no longer with the team as of this year. He might have been, like last year might have been his last season under contract.
Oh, maybe.
It also wouldn't surprise me if they were to sign him to a coach deal or something so he can continue with getting benefits throughout this process. Unless he wants to go make another try with another team. Unless he's ready at that point, because
I just Googled it just so I can jump in here. After long COVID derailed career, Brandon Sutter has hopes he could play again. 2 years he's been off.
Yep.
But it doesn't look like he still can't.
Well, and when was that article posted?
This was March of 2023.
Oh,
March
okay.
13th of 2023.
Yeah, so.
As most people know, I suffer from long COVID as well. Thus, you'll see me coughing every once in a while. When I saw the Brandon Sutter interview last year?
It was the end of last year, yeah. No, end of last year. Yep. End of the 2022 season.
Yes. Not the end of the season that just passed, but the other one.
Yeah.
It literally brought me to tears. It was one of those moments in life where you're hearing a professional freaking athlete, and he couldn't get a full sentence out without taking that deep breath that I have to do quite often, especially when it's really smoky out. It was one of those, it was an eye-opener for me. I know what it's like. Obviously not as a professional athlete. I was never a professional athlete, but I wasn't, I could walk up a flight of stairs and not be huffing and puffing. Yeah. Now I'm walking up a flight of stairs and I'm huffing and puffing. I don't think he's ever coming back, unfortunately. I think he's done.
Which is unfortunate because
he's a great player.
Great player. I mean, he never lived up to the expectations of his name.
No. Well, because
you never will. Like as a Sutter, unless you're Daryl, who now honestly, I could see Brandon going into coaching. Like the way he again, all hearsay that he would work with the newer kids. Yeah. Maybe that's something that the Canucks look into. I mean, the Canucks do bring on a lot of former players as coaches or advisors, right? So
well, it's something we can follow as we go through till October and see what he's doing. I'm going to follow that storyline closely just because it's kind of near and dear to my heart. And hoping, touch wood, hoping he can come back.
That's fair. Well, everyone, I believe we've done overtime as we normally do because it's our show and we can do whatever we want. But we don't have a producer in our ear being like, need to get out, need to time it out. No, we do whatever we want, which is great.
Because we're us.
And we will be here live next week.
Hey, did I tell you what happened today?
No, you didn't.
Didn't I? I won a poker tournament and that I got into another poker tournament. And now I'm going to play another poker tournament. I get in another big poker tournament. Anyways, carry on.
Yes, you did. Random fact of the day, folks. Next Monday, the 29th, we'll be live here after the first full preseason week. Because this week, preseason week 1 had one game. This week, however, those two teams, or I guess one of those two teams is still playing. I didn't realize that Calgary
goes into BC, don't they?
No, so the BC Lions are at Saskatchewan May 27th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, okay.
So it's
that's
not
our
until
first
June
game.
1st. That's our first preseason. It's not until the June 1st that Calgary is at BC.
And then BC at Calgary to open the season.
Now, this is something I hope one day we can discuss with minds of the game, because my first thought here is you play Thursday, you play June 1st, and then you play Thursday, June 8th. You play 7 days apart, 1 game preseason. First week is real. Do you have plays that you're practicing for the June 1st game that you're never going to see in a regular season game?
Oh, 100%.
Do you throw out weird formations for the preseason game or for week 1? Like you have one game plan for team 1 preseason week 3, because that's where you should see a quarter or a half for your starters. For Vernon Adams, I'm assuming we'll see a half. And then I would give him a half.
Yeah.
Because it's how long has it been since he started?
In week 1, you're talking about?
No, in week 3, preseason week 3. You give Vernon Adams.
Don't we play 2 or we play 3 preseason games?
No, there's 3 weeks. We only play 2.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was confused.
Yeah, everyone only plays 2, I believe.
Yeah. In the second preseason, he'll get I think you play him the second half.
Really? Second half?
I think you play him the second half and you play to win. So you get into that.
I don't think
rhythm.
so. I don't think so. I think June 1st, you get maybe a half, maybe your first quarter and half of the second quarter. And you run things very lackadaisical. You hand the ball off 7 out of 10 times.
You're definitely not using your playbook, your season playbook.
Or do you run your season playbook and then week 1, you do some weird, crazy shit? Like, I'd love to have a conversation with a former coach or a GM or a player even who went through that to be able to explain it.
Oh, we might be able to do that for next week.
Now you know who I was thinking about.
Was that who you were thinking about?
That's exactly who I was thinking about.
Okay. Yeah, we might be able to do that for next week. That would be cool to hear somebody who's been through a preseason.
Someone who's been through that veteran process of the preseason.
Exactly.
Training camp.
Let's do
insights. See if we can arrange something like that. Yeah. But yeah, that is the show for the week. You can find us on Twitter at HSP_pod. You can find us on Instagram. Same thing, Facebook, Hughes Sports Podcast. You can also check out all our articles at hughesports.ca. Like I said, keep your eyes out there. All sorts of new and fun information, as well as check out insidetherink.com, where I'll be still posting a little bit less frequently because it is the summertime and a lot less stories going on about the Vancouver Canucks.
Very cool.
Where can they find you on social medias?
They can find me at Kevin Hughes on Facebook and Kev Hughes 64 on Twitter. The Twitter machine.
The Twitter machine, but hughesports.ca is the place to go. And if you really like podcasts and you haven't mentioned it I did a little bit during Darren's, but not really. If you like to get your daily fill of sports, tune into the Rod Peterson Show. Great cool introspective. It's
not a normal podcast. It's not a normal TV sports talk show, because we call it kind of the Seinfeld of sports talk, because it's really not about anything that he doesn't specialize in any one team. It's Rod. It's Rod giving his opinion, and his opinion is pretty cool most times. Sometimes I'm like, Rod, stop talking. But I love him. Just in case he's listening, I love you, Rod.
But yeah, you can find me at JStreams, JEH Streams on Twitter, as well as on twitch.tv, twitch.tv/JStreams here. I stream there every Tuesday and Wednesday. And this Saturday, I'm actually doing.
Oh my God. Are you going to do something stupid again?
No, this Saturday, I'm doing.
Stupid again.
We are doing a half-weight Extra Life Day. So for those of you who don't know, every November, I do a 24-hour stream with a bunch of friends, raising money for the Children's Miracle Network. In my case, it would be the Alberta Children's Hospital. So far to date, I was looking back through some stuff today. I swear it's a smoke. I'm not getting emotional about it. But we've raised $2,200 over the last 7 years, just myself. As a team, I believe we've raised close to $8,000.
So this year, let's push you well over the $10,000 mark.
Well, this year I have a stretch goal, which on my stream I have already talked about. Don't worry, it's probably the most mild. It is the most mild stretch goal, donation goal.
This is the guy who had to do a stream in a bikini. Okay.
Yep, and also I have to post 8 months worth of pictures on a website that I will not mention here for fear of demonetization and restrictions. The OnlyPens websites posting pictures. Don't worry, they are safe for work, but all money raised through that will be for the Extra Life for this next year. But
and this year, I refuse to go on that.
Smart man, I refuse to go on it too. I have to every now and again. Next year or this upcoming year, if we reach. I want to double check what my goal was. I believe it's $1,600. I set it to $1,600 raised, and I will just by myself. This isn't a team goal. This is 100% Jake Hughes, J Streams, my own personal goal. Sorry, $1,800. $1,800.
What are you?
I will be doing a live open mic night.
Oh,
doing a comedy routine, doing a stand-up comedy routine.
Like at a bar or something?
A comedy shop somewhere. And I will bring along friends to videotape and record it. So if you guys can't attend live, you'll be able to watch it back on YouTube. And we'll probably do a watch along on stream as well. So I can tell you how nervous and terrifying that is. Because even though I'm very comfortable on stream in front of however many hundreds of beautiful people listen to this show, in front of people, if it's 10 people or
actually, 5, this one's good. I'm going to make you get there.
If you put me in front of more than 10 people in a room, I am the worst speaker.
Okay, guys,
in front of a camera, and I can have 20,000 people watching me on camera, completely fine.
How much we need? $1,800.
$1,800. What I will do is I will also put the link into the description of the podcast.
Do that.
You're listening to right now. I'll also post it up on. We'll clip this out and we'll also post it on all the social media platforms.
Dude, we've said goodbye like for 8 minutes now. It's like that girlfriend you had when you were in high school, and you're like, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up.
Well, in that case, we thank you all for sticking around for an extra 8 whole minutes of your day.
13.
If you're listening on like 2 times speed, that's only 4 minutes of your day, and we probably sound really squirrely. People do that, and it wilds me up, but that's a conversation for another time.
I do it.
You're insane. So on that note, I will see you beautiful humans next week to discuss more CFL sports around the league, including Vancouver Canucks and BC Lions.
Have a great week.